Good afternoon, all. How is everyone?
Well, was it me?
good.
Or was there no tune there?
Oh, I heard the tune.
I heard the
Anyone
tune.
heard it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Andrew heard it because he was dancing to it, so he must have
Yeah,
heard
it's just, yeah.
Oh, well, just cut me out of the tune, guys.
it. Andrew was doing Tales of the Unexpected dance.
Hell yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that your favourite dance?
I can't say I've ever done it, but yeah.
Oh, good.
Anyway, we are in the risk of just leathering, to use a Scottish expression.
Leathering.
So welcome, everyone. As you will see, today we are joined by Andrew Grant, who is known to both of us, which is why we're probably being a little bit casual.
Yeah. Sound like the police.
He is known and renowned and legendary. Renowned trance and physical medium, who has worked all over the world and has slightly down to earth, let's just call it that, down to earth approach to mediumship.
Oh, you're calling me common?
Yes.
I'm just moving my executive chair.
Good luck with that. So, Lara, you have met Andrew before?
Yes.
Well, not physically in real life, but on Skype calls, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in Atlanta.
That's it, Atlanta.
Yeah.
So how was Atlanta, Andrew?
Well, I've just been back 2 weeks. So I've been in lockdown. Well, I came out of that the weekend, so yeah, so it's all right.
I was going to say that took a while to come out there, didn't it?
Well, just trying in what context, in the COVID context, it's certainly nicer there than here. It seems pretty, bear in mind I've been locked down for a couple of weeks. It's just a funny vibe here. Just a bit miserable a little bit. But it's good to be
back. It's not even like, although it might have been, is it warm weather down where you are? Has it been quite warm?
No, I'm just in Portsmouth. No, it's just started. Yeah, it's been warm, but the rain started, so yeah, I could give you a full of weather forecast, but probably not the time.
Well, visually, I actually got a few friends over in Atlanta that we see.
Oh yeah,
the weather's like there. Lance over there, it's usually really gorgeous over there. Whenever and so you've got quite a visual difference, haven't you, as well? It's the sensory stuff is completely changed for you.
Yeah, it's oppressively hot there. That's why I call it Hot Atlanta. But over the last few years, sorry.
But it's hot. I went there for a big convention once, and oh my God, the heat was
conviction. Huh?
The heat was stifling when I was there.
Yeah, it's terrible. I had to shave my armpits.
Oh my God, it must have been.
Yeah, did. I had to wear pads under my arms.
Oh my God.
So to bring us back on track, because Andrew will need reining in. So let's start at the very beginning. Andrew, how did you get round to becoming a medium? When was that moment where you just said, I think I see dead people?
Probably started about 13.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang. That far back, or? Well, it's always in my family, John. It was in my family, John. Both my grandmothers was mediums, and my Scottish grandmother was a renowned medium in Glasgow.
Oh, who was she?
I don't know her name. They used to kill. I don't.
That's okay.
I found out my daughters went, because all the Scottish family moved to Australia when I was a kid. So I never met any of them, and my daughters went over there and met up with my uncles, because I never met any of them, And they said, "Oh, Andrew does that." Well, his grandmother Sheila something. I got such a memory loss, really. What happened? Yeah, so it just came down from that, and I was working. I was about 24, 25, 26. Can't remember now. I'm getting old. It seems to be in the mists of time, but I I'll tell you the story about, I was working with this guy, Gary, and he kept saying, you got to meet my mum, you got to meet my mum. And I'm like 26, let's say, and I'm thinking, God, she must be 60. What do I want to meet her for, really, you know? So after 9-10 months, I went round there, knocked on her door, and I just looked at her, and there's this incredible rush of cold energy, of like a waterfall. And she just said to me, oh, your grandmother's here. My London grandmother, who was a spiritualist medium from the 20s onwards. And she just said, oh, her name's Caroline, but everyone called her Carrie, but you guys called her Guy. But she wouldn't have known any of that. Wow. And she said, your grand's been trying to get you here for sort of 10 months, just to tell you it's like, it's your turn now. It's your go. And that was it. So I went in this woman's house, locked myself in her toilet. And I cried for about 2 hours, because I was just, I'm sure many of your listeners are sort of spiritually inclined have often felt that chill, that cold, that presence. And that was just like sort of standing under the Niagara Falls. Mm-hmm. But and that was it. I started seeing things straight away. I sat up with Margaret all night, and we talked about things, because I didn't know nothing. I mean, we used to take the mickey out of the grand. Oh, she's off down the spiritualist, talk to dead people, you know. Yeah. So it was always around. And she used to say things to me like, oh, you're hanging about with someone called Paul and he's going to get you in trouble. The judge said the same thing, but it was all right, you know. But yeah, so there was always this sort of really down to earth. My gran was Cockney, so it was always like, what you bleeding doing, and you know, all this stuff. But she knew stuff, and I didn't appreciate it at the time, but because she's young, I was 24, 25, I was just trying to establish myself in the business and stuff, and then suddenly after that, that was the Wednesday, and then Saturday I'm sitting in a meditation spiritual communication group with her, you know. And she was a very physical, she was a medium that, like, you find a lot of mediums don't go out into the public, you know. They do their work in groups and bring people on, and she was more than happy with that. She was one of the best trance mediums no one's ever seen, you know. She was absolutely pure. And then Saturday night, I'm sitting there, and for those people who's interested in guides, a guide came through her to me, and it was incredible, you know, the knowledge of, I mean, there's stuff said that no one could have known all that stuff. It was deeply personal, very sort of, you know, it was lovely. The voice.
Yeah, that's a good point, Andrew, is that it's not for other people to understand, really, but for the person that's there, it's a deeply personal thing. Absolutely,
yeah. And some of these messages you hear from mediums talking to people can sound, if it's not for you, a little bit vacuous sometimes, you know, sort of bit empty, but actually there's a lot of meaning for the recipient, you know. So
yeah, definitely. And so often, you know, when other people, sometimes if there's an audience, then they can relate to little bits and pieces, but for the actual person it's meant for, it's unmistakable. The energy transferal is incredible, isn't it? Like a three-way energetic communication that you can't quite explain to other people. It can only be felt.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. It's about the individualism, you know, especially people come to folks like us, you know, they're all looking for something, as I still am now. I'm on my new little journey now, just searching for inner peace and inner understanding, you know, like what am I needed for? What's the point? And I think that's what mediumship is, not just about bringing your granny through. There's a whole catalogue and a whole history, the weight behind that, of guides and dimensional beings, aliens, if you want to call it that. I've never really thought that, but yeah, the amount of work that's done in mediums, you know, pantries as it used to be, you know.
You're absolutely right. I have spent a lot of time in the past. Listen, it's off topic, but it's not off topic. It's like, you know, how do you see aliens and stuff like that? The same flaming way that you see dead people, right? it's you don't see them with your eyes, you see them with your mind's eye, right? So basically, I'm training, as you've probably gathered by now, as a medium, right? That training doesn't stop for nobody, does it really? And
no.
as a medium is very transient, right?
Yeah.
You move through people's lives rather than stay for any length of time.
Oh, absolutely. You know, especially sort of work.
It's a lonely journey. It's a lonely journey.
It is, and I've always just sort of played it down with a laugh and joke because I don't want to be too. I just sort of want back people off a little bit, you know, because I found in America you get a lot of sticky people asking, you know, they try and get close to you and tell me this, tell me that. And I was talking to Jonathan yesterday about it, you know, asking about shares, and there's a lot of oh bugger. Phone. Sorry, my office hurricane. Yeah, like the window opens. You'd want to have the window open in here. And yeah, so people tend to stick to you a bit, and they think you got the answers to everything. And I had tons of people like that, and that's why I came off Facebook a bit. I got so many, and also the other thing of like when you wear your heart on your sleeve as a medium or a psychic, or you're actually, I was just trying to disarm everyone by being a bit stupid and, you know, just sort of saying I'm okay, I'm safe. You know, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and you know, I'm just as fucked up as you. So let's just share that, you know, and see if we can help each other out.
Totally. It's like you're still a human being. You're still in a physical existence, right? So you're kind of governed by the physical laws of every single human being, right? It just so happens that energetically, you can see another world, you can feel another world.
Yeah.
It gives you an idea that the world is actually layered. It's like an onion, isn't it? There's some of it we probably don't even see. But you know, getting back to the physical mediumship, how did you discover that? I get the whole, like, you saw your grandmother, she was an amazing physical medium that nobody heard of, like you're saying. So tell us about the first time that your grandmother was the first time you sat in trance and realized that actually you were the physical medium.
I don't know if I suppose it's physical. I don't really. The physical mediums I've seen have always been materialization mediums, which is always seems to be that's more physical than. Although I would say trance is. Well, I sat with Margaret, and not my grandmother. She had been passed away some years before that. Okay. But Margaret was the medium who brought my grandmother through. You know, my grandmother Dean to.
Margaret, okay.
Yeah, sorry, and so I sat with her, and like I said, the first time the guide came through for me, which was incredible, and it is, you know, very personal, but it felt so right. And I know so many people listening to have had similar experiences or slightly obtuse because we're all different. You know, we live in the infinite variety and all that. But yeah, and I remember, so I sat in this group every Monday. We sat from 8 till midnight. There was a group. I was lucky. She invited me to join in, and this group had been sitting for 25 years. And just the same people. So I was really lucky to get into a physical Monday circle. Yeah, I sat with her for 6 years. But at first I was sort of like, some people would be shocked, I guess, or my laddish head should have told me, oh, this is rubbish. But it didn't, because it just like, oh, this is a comfort, this is a good environment. You know, and of course you're excited. You're bloody excited. Something's happening to you, and it's like this great adventure, and it's almost unbelievable. And so you go through this. Oh, I'm still in that place, that duality of like being here, human, and you know, and actually, hopefully, being in touch with my inner self a bit, but. So I sat there, and after a while, I could always feel that energy, and I'd sit there, and my heart would be, I'd be going, oh my God, sitting there hanging onto the chair, sweating with my heart, where I felt this pressure behind me, like a truck was trying to pass, you know, was trying to push me. And I was just used to sit there for hours, and everybody's, oh yeah, I went to the forest, I sat on the bench, I saw my guide. And I'm thinking, oh, bloody but eventually, and actually, it was just that it was me, my conscious mind, which is our best friend and worst enemy in this game, was sort of putting up the barriers of my auric field, really. I wasn't letting myself completely, as I learned later, to actually stretch myself out energetically. And so it was like a barrier. I was tightening myself in, like we all know, you know. And so that went on for about 6 months, and there was always a flobberdob voice coming through. And eventually this older gentleman started talking, you know, and they called him Mr. Pickwick for ages. And it weren't for about 3 years that he finally gave his name and stuff. So I sort of developed it that way. And the clairvoyance was sort of there from day one anyway. Somehow it just switched on overnight. And I've always had subjective vision. So I've been lucky that, you know, when I've had sight of things, it's always been over there. And when I work, I always have to look over, because that's where the sort of spirit people walk in on me, you know. And yeah, so the trance was really important because it was a more personal interface between the sort of the esoteric universe and heaven and God, and it's a much more personable thing. And I think that's the whole purpose of these friendly beings and these sort of metaphorical beings that come and talk to us. They're metaphors of what they represent. Their message represents, you know, sort of kindly old Victorian gentleman and or a nun and all this stuff. So yeah, so I just sat there for years really, and I never thought I'd work as a medium. It just wasn't in my head, you know, the group. So I sat on a Monday night, I sat Tuesday afternoon, I sat Thursday night, different types of groups. So I was a nutter, you know. I was full on. I was excited, you know. I was seeing things. I didn't know what I was seeing, you know.
I call it the sweet shop syndrome, right? But
also,
yeah,
sweet shop.
I call it in the sweet shop. Yeah, you get in the sweet shop, you taste the candy, and you don't want to leave, right? Because it gives you, when you realise that there's something different. He's waving at somebody now, Jonathan.
That's the shop people. I'm in the car park as they keep staring at me, and I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah. Oh, nice bargain. 2 for 1.
I do that. I drive along the horn and wave at people as well, just to see the reaction. Nobody, you're right. Nobody gets up one day and goes, I know, I'm going to be a medium, right? Nobody I've ever actually. It all kind of happens because it's like the universe conspires, isn't it, for you to be in that position, so that actually you've got no other alternative but to be trained, to be worked at, and actually then read for other people. And so it's not the kind of profession that I think, you know, like at school, could you imagine, you know, forensic scientist, lawyer, doctor, medium.
Yeah.
It's just not on there, is it? When you get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, or do when you grow up? It's not.
I know. And I never saw it as a profession, or like I worked, you know, doing the rounds in England a bit, but it's always like the charging problem, you know. I mean, I worked with a lady called Rosemary. She was a psychic artist a lot, and we'd drive like 150 miles and do an event and get £5, you know. But I used to love that. There was something really pure about that, and something wonderful that you. But then when you go to America, it's completely the opposite. If you know, you can.
Well, yes, but I totally hear you. Yes, you love that. But people capitalize on that as well. It is an energetic exchange. If you go too far and don't take the worth, because money's energy as well. If you don't see it as money, you see it as energy. And here, like, you've got to pay your bills. You've got to have the roof over your head. And that's all very well if you've got another job that does that.
Yeah, see, I always had another job. I never saw it as a living, you know. It just wasn't. I wasn't brought up in that. It was all about duty and service, you know, with the mediums I was at. And some other mediums got a hold of me and helped me, you know. I was like a couple of well-known mediums back in the 90s helped me. They're older, you know, older lady me. They're fantastic, real great mediums. And I used to go on holiday, you know. I was 30. And Al was like 76. And she was Scottish, so I used to call her the Bullet. And she was amazing. But she never, this idea of training, I think the idea of training is a difficult one because there's no sort of process or methodology. I mean, there's patterns you can follow, i.e. sort of meditation and stuff. But I think most of it's down to experiential, actually doing it, getting up and dare. I think that's the only way you can actually express yourself. I don't think there's not like a written course, you know. They tend to do that in the States a bit. There's a thing called the Anastasia thing I got when I was working in somewhere, and so they sort of write things down, and it was sort of so disappointing for people because they sort of were promised that they would be psychic mediums when they come out the end of the $10,000 course and they got their certificate. And so being over there,
as a medium, they need to be trained because everybody does it differently, right? So you've got your
yeah,
follow, but at the end of the day, they still need develop, don't they?
Yeah, I think it's really the training for me is like giving somebody the opportunity in a safe and comfortable environment to actually stand up and express themselves. Because for me, stand-up mediumship, platform mediumship, you might want to call it, has always been I guess it comes from my grandmothers, you know, and my gran was like that, and her sister Rose, Auntie Rose, and the sort of the ultimate thing, really, as far as they were concerned, was sort of standing in front of an audience, you know, and that's really, I think you've got to be given the opportunity that, you know, some people are just one-to-one readers and that's what they like, but I think to get up and just be thrown in the deep end, you know, where it's safe, people on a course, you know, or something.
Yeah, because there are protection elements to that as well, isn't there? I mean, you don't want to leave them wide open either, and they're subject to all sorts of stuff.
Well, yeah, I suppose so, but the whole point is a safe environment. If you've got a good medium running the thing, then there's a beginning and an end to it, you know. A lot of people sort of wander off and have flights about, you know, someone followed me home, or I don't really sort of gel with that too much. It's never happened to me in that sense, you know, and so I think you got to be strong with it, you know. You just this I'm starting now and I'm finishing, and you know, with mediumship, you always get a few problems with sort of slightly more negative things, and I just start F off. I don't have any truck with it, you know. I'm a good boy, so there's no point trying to bother me.
Disciplined. So you were very disciplined in your craft.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was lucky to have that. Margaret and the other couple of mediums who taught me that, you know, like always, what's the source of your information? You know, don't just pick it out of the air of possibilities and potentialities of someone's life. You know, perhaps you could get all sort of pseudoscience about like multi-dimensions, and we're all in a parallel universe, and I'm living somewhere else in different, you know. And I think maybe you could look at that. You could reach up, and I was always told, you know, like these streams of potentiality that people have. They can, a psychic, which I've seen do, can. I'll tell you a story about that potentiality and the power of your own mind. Really, is that I was seeing a bird in Norway, and she was gorgeous. You know, I was going to Norway every other weekend, and it's only 60 quid, and I knew it was stupid because I knew it was for 6 months, but I sort of like I sort of fell in a bit deep with her, you know, and I don't really like that too, you know. So, but I knew it was 6 months, so at the end of it. And I thought, so I was sort of like a bit heartbroken, and I was living on a boat in London then, in St Catherine's Dock, and so I would often go to Seven Dials in Covent Garden, where there was a well-known spiritual shop, and I thought, right, I'll get my logical head and try and see how this stuff works. So I saw 16 readers, 16, cost me a fortune. But it was an experiment. So in my head, I said to myself, I'm going to project out. Well, not project. I'm just going to innocently think about that. This was just after Christmas we finished. I thought, so in my head, we're going to get back together next Christmas. He's just having a break and blah, blah, blah. So I set up this sort of 5-point thing. So I went to see all these breeders, and oh, you've been going out with a girl from, you know, Scandinavian. Yeah. Oh, well, you've just finished. You'll be back together next Christmas. 16 of them told me that. And of course, I wanted it to be real, but I'd scuppered myself a bit. So anyway, the 16th was a lovely girl. I went in there and she was a medium, you know, the difference between picking up stuff and like Out told me, you know, you can't just go picking up stuff. What's the source of your information? Who's telling you what? So the 16th one, she said, there's an older woman here. She's just swearing at you. And she's saying, what the bleeding hell are you doing? And this girl said to me exactly, she said, what the bleeding hell are you doing? You know damn well you're not going back with the girl. And what you doing messing about with all this, you know? And that was my grandmother.
More like it.
And that was my grandmother. You know damn well. So I got a mouthful or an earful from my beautiful medium grandmother who, and so that for me was the absolute ultimate definition of really down to earth and, you know, the truth. And I wanted to fool myself. I wanted to believe that. And people do that. You have a false hope, false promise. And eventually you kid yourself because that you concentrate that and it then just drifts away into nothing and something else comes along. But I learned a lot about energy and process with that because it went on for a little while. And, you know, I went on to different search then trying to find out things because, blah, 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 bored myself. Go on.
Let me jump in because we've had lots of comments.
Yeah.
Hello. So hello to all so Suzanne and Michelle and Beth and Pat and Philippa and John saying, oh my God, it's like talking to me. But Michelle has asked, no, that doesn't matter. How can I get spirit to communicate with me? Would love this experience.
Yeah, it's really hard, that one. How do I get them to do it? It's like the idea, the premise is there that one has some sort of control over it. And I think really you have to be fatalistic about it. And I've taught myself like to have I said to you, no expectations. I absolutely expect nothing from this. So I've freed myself up through meditation, which is really the only really personal thing you can do to develop yourself, is to find yourself within yourself and within all that business. But I just used to walk around the house talking, you know, Guy, my grandma, Guy, where are you? And I would really try and look for little tiny clues. And people often say there's like the movement in the house and dreams are really important. But I used to lock myself into a cupboard. Should I be saying? Yeah, I locked myself into a cupboard. I'd black it out. So I'd take the doors up and I would sit in there and pitch black. And then I would really learn to let go. And letting go is mean having no expectations. And the Buddhists, you know, and the monks, I've stayed with Buddhist monks, not on holiday, but went to their gaff. The whole idea is, you know, they talk about just be that blade of grass, just be. And that's the most sort of ridiculous concept for a busy mind and a mind that's actually actively trying to reach out there. And so you just, there is a moment when you just be, but there's no shortcut. That's what I was saying about the American way of doing things. There's not a methodology. There's just a personal experience which you get with a group of like-minded people, and you can experience that together, and you can share things, and you can share readings. And, you know, once you start saying things to a few people and you pick stuff up, it's very inspiring, because there's no, even now, there's not a mental, people say, how do you do it? How do you switch on? I just don't. It's a natural thing. It's an absolutely natural process that we all do, all of us, you know, Tom, Dick, and Harina. And
there's a Harina.
I don't know, just made that's a nice name, Harina.
It is actually quite a nice name. I get it. No, you're absolutely right. I'm still getting, you know, the part of you were lucky enough to be in a group that had been harnessing and nurturing the energy for 20 years.
Yeah.
And let me just for everybody that's watching, that's incredibly rare, by the way.
Oh, yeah, they were old school people, you know, and there was a couple of people who got nothing. Rhoda, who was an absolute wonderful lady, she'd sat there for all those years and not got a thing, and she just regarded herself, as she used to call herself, the battery. She said, I'm just here to add my positive thoughts to this group, and I love seeing everybody else working, and it's all for one and one for all. It really is in those situations, you know. There's nothing special about being mediumistic. There's nothing special about it at all. For me, it's just that through that moment of seeing Margaret, I was doing very well. I had quite a lot of money, actually. I had 3 businesses, and I think we had like 4 or 5 houses then. And I was only in my late 20s, and I'd run an asbestos removal company in London. And it was sort of ruinous in a way, because it just freed me from sort of the reality and material chains, as it were, and sort of ruined my life financially like that. Because when you touch something special, it's like you want that again, you know, because you know it's a deeper sort of elusive, mysterious reality to your soul. And it's like people say, you know, it is home. It does feel like that. And yeah.
I think as well, you said there's nothing more special about it. I mean, mediums are special. I think you've separated yourself from that because you're used to being you to other people. That's a foreign concept, Andrew.
Yeah.
Right? So what's special about a medium, a proper medium, and I'll say to anybody, you'll get 100 people who say they're a medium, you'll get 1, if you're lucky, that's actually a proper bona fide medium that has put the hard work in. And by that, I mean it's daily discipline. For those of you that are watching, it's a life discipline. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of life, right?
Absolutely. I dedicated everything to that, you know, and I always, you know, my businesses, you know, it changed my whole life. And but actually it was the making of me, even now I'm just so absolutely curious of life, you know, and our situation, the Andrew that I see in the mirror and hear talking, and then the other experience that goes on in my mind and my energy field, like we all have. But everybody's looking, you know. I think a lot of people say we're all mediums, but I think what they mean is that we all communicate at a soul level and energy level with each other. That's right. So being the medium between 2 things, and I think pretty much everybody worries about death. When I you know, when I have my events and stuff or do events, I look at the audience sometimes. I just think, you know, why are you here? And because I'm trying to learn myself, you know, what's this about? Why am I stood here? And what is this thing that's happening? And but everybody's scared of their own mortality, right? If you strip everything down, I've had this and I want this, and and you take it really down to the base level, I think it's the old instinctual self, the id, you know, the old mind, flight and fight. I think everybody's scared of their own mortality or worried about what's next. The idea that your conscious mind can't accept its own death, its own finite point. And that's why the conscious mind gets in the way of, like the lady asked, you know, with spirit connections, because at one level you've got to ask, you've got to have a conscious, logical mind, so you're not just being, you know, being an idiot about things, taking it all on. And you've got to be very discerning, you know. You've got to be what's real in them. Like when I went to those, sorry, say again.
Andrew, are you scared of dying?
Yeah, my body, yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, as much as anybody else is. It's a hidden taboo in most Western, you know, society, really. So yeah, I ponder that, especially as you get older. Yeah, it's like I don't know if scared or fear is the right word, because I'm a believer, man. But I think it's probably just the process of it, the act, you know, maybe. I don't know. I don't try and dwell too much on that. Because sometimes I just think to myself, bloody hell, you know, I spent my whole life thinking about dead people. And I was too busy thinking about dead people to live, you know. Sometimes I just, you know, the whole sort of MO is about.
Many would say that you've actually crammed. I mean, certainly listening to you, and I know that you've lived in Atlanta, you're in Texas for a while, was that right? Or Vegas?
Chicago and LA. I lived in, yeah.
Right, okay. You've even said that you had this girlfriend that you saw over in Norway and were backwards and forwards. Andrew, you've been about. There's no 2 ways about it, right? And you're going to tell me, and there's Jonathan, who I know has lived with you before, right?
Oi.
So I'm sitting
share the flat.
Seriously, I think there's a bit of a disconnect there, because you've lived many lives in this one physical existence. So do you think you'll ever get to a point where you're going, oh yeah, this is what I call living? And perhaps maybe you're not acknowledging that you have actually been living.
Well, I don't know, because I was sort of single for so long, and I wanted it that way, and I found it very hard to have personal relationships, because I don't know, there was too much an adventure going on in my mind to actually share myself. So I was always really scared of that, and I'd really back off really quick. It was always a bit, I'm probably not a good partner, you know. And but yeah, the adventure, I'm off.
A bit crowded, right? There's you, thousands
well, there's too much
and your partner. I know.
Yeah, well, there's too much. There was just like, you know, the thing is as well, Lana, you meet so many amazing people. It's almost like you're continuously falling in love with people, you know, because you're like, oh my God, there's some incredible people out there, the vibe of them or the energy, or sometimes you just.
Absolutely. It's not, you don't fall in love with them, Andrew, right? I think that's displaced. I think I have a natural honor is the word, an absolute awe for the strength of the human spirit. Yeah,
for real. Yeah.
Yeah. And we love everybody, right? Let's get that clear. We love everybody, right? So
try.
Go. I don't mean you physically have to love
everybody. Yeah.
I'm talking, it's a natural understanding of oneness and connection.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful thing, and everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking, you know, and like I said, I was talking to John yesterday, just like, you know, hopefully I'm off to I want to go and live in the mountains of Scotland, wild camping, and just sit up on the mountains for a while. I've got my own little vision quest going on. I need to adventure in nothingness again, you know, in just.
God, yeah, Ben and I were talking about that the other day. It's like the thing about the COVID and about what's happened in that. Is the realization, I think it was Saturday, of, oh my God, I think I'm looking for adventure. I've actually feel like I've lost something, and it's the sense of adventure, because one thing that mediums have, they might seem boring and sit there, is they've got a remarkable sense of adventure. Jonathan, you've lived with Andrew before. Tell us what he was like to live with.
Oh, don't. John. Well, John. I was younger.
I'm talking,
what I can tell.
Like, was he an unusual guy to live with, or?
Yes. So we shared a house. Now there was a weirdness about how we met, because we were both working for a management consultancy company. I was part of the marketing team, and he was part of the IT team. In fact, he was the IT team. And I invited him to a barbecue, and he was getting really distressed throughout this barbecue. I was going, what is it? What's wrong? I remember we went upstairs, and he literally had the I see dead people conversation. And it was, and I thought, this guy is either completely psychotic or he's actually quite interesting. And I thought, let's go for the interesting one.
Oh, cheers, John.
So then he moved to a different company, and I then joined that company as well.
Oh, that's right,
an advertising agency. So we worked there for ages together, and that's why we ended up knowing each other quite well. And then he moved into the place that I was living in this house already, and he had a spare room, so he moved in. Now we used to organise sort of psychic suppers.
That's right, yeah.
I love a psychic supper. Oh yeah.
What?
I love a psychic supper.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So very often we would host it, because obviously we had a big old space that we could do it. And I would then witness his preparation. And so I would see, I would make sure all the food was cooked and that kind of stuff. But I would see him the day before, the whole day, almost becoming quite reclusive and psychically getting himself ready. Then he would do readings for everyone all night. And of course, they wanted their pound of flesh. They wanted more and more and more. And we'd probably start at 7, we'd go on to about midnight. But then I would see the state of him the next day, and the psychic hangover that he would have for at least a day, if not several days. So I remember I was chatting to him yesterday, and he was saying about how when you make contact and you pass over that message, and the reward is amazing. And I said, that's fine, but what about the cost for you? Because it was wrecking him. It was absolutely wrecking him. So sometimes some mediums seem quite precious about the number of readings they can do, but it was exhausting him. And then particularly, and that was just, I would say, bog standard clairvoyance. But when he ever did trance, and there was quite a few times I'd see him do trance, it was just a whole new level. And this character called Samuel would come, and I'd have a chat with Samuel. And Samuel would tell me about the hierarchical structure. I don't know if it's confidential. Any of the hierarchical structure of the spirit world and how it all sort of works. And I was psychoanalyzing a spirit trance me thing coming through, and I was doing the psychoanalysis going. So
he was always the professor, John.
Yeah, because you would, the character would sometimes not answer the question, and it was very telling in what they didn't answer. And we would have like hour-long conversation about very advanced quantum theory, about the true nature of reality, and then when he'd come out of it, and I'd say the next day, do you remember? He wouldn't remember any of it. He could barely remember things at the best of times. So it was never quite understanding how he could have this level of conversation about subjects that he didn't know, and also then didn't remember any of it the very next day. Even just an ordinary session, he couldn't remember all the conversations and all the stuff he mentioned to people. I said, but do you remember that bit when you said so-and-so, and you were trying to get them to say, does this ring any bell? No, no. And then they went, oh my God, what you mean is, and the sort of dots were made, and it was amazing. It was interesting to see the next day he just had no recognition of it at all.
Wow. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it's like. And you're there, like you see the people and they're talking to you, like they remember stuff, and you're there totally clueless. Like because it's a medium is a communicator, a channel, if you want to call it, a receiver, right? And the idea is that you hand yourself over so the information comes in and out. So kind of it does take its toll on you mentally. A lot of physical mediums you see, and this is what always put me off, or mediums that really, do the whole ectoplasm thing and really allow that spirit right into their physical being. I've noticed they become very ill as they get older. Have you noticed that, Andrew?
Yeah, so that when I first got mixed up with all this, how the mediums who used to get hold of me, and there was a guy, there was a guy, he was really good, he's that good, I forgot his name. Mate, he was the best ever. He was like super. And he got on the he got me one time. I was at a course somewhere, I can't remember. Oh, Stansted, of course, back in, I was like 1989, 90 or something like that. And he got me on the stairs, and he said, Andrew, he said, you're obviously very clairvoyant. He said, life's going to be a little bit shit because of it. And I was like, and I was in the early stage of like upliftment, and it's almost like floating around like, like everything's going to be all right, man, and he sort of really brought me down to earth about, the effect that the energy that you connect with and open yourself to the spirit energy, it's almost like, I haven't got any analogies for it, but it's almost like you meet in a place of neutrality where your energy, your bodily energy doesn't belong, neither does theirs. And I think that's the detrimental effect it can have on you, some of them. I mean, they used to say a lot of the mediums get diabetes, and on their, because they say you're using your pineal gland, etc. But, so there is that. I mean, used to get very tired, then sometimes not, but it depends how much you want to give. And I just, like I said to John, my house in Atlanta, I could get I in the end ran my own events, so I could get about 40 people in our main lounge, and I'd go like from 7 o'clock till 2 in the morning. We'd have supper and people coming. It was great, and so I used to think to myself, I think anything worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Absolutely. If you're going to give, you may as well give massively.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I always used to think about the people coming. It's my goodness, and you could see their faces, the expectation, which is always a very heavy draw on you. And there's always like the one in the audience, you just think, oh, just, you're right. Sometimes I think, well, but I used to love it. I still do. I mean, and in particular, my house was fantastic because it was my own environment. A lot of people say, aren't you worried about bringing spirits in? It's like, no, why would I be? I like to think I'm working with good and God and the light. So why nothing's going to bother me? And it never bloody did, because it was a sacred space. You know, I'd set it up so, you know, and
it's a sacred space, like a church.
Yeah, like, exactly. Like, yeah.
If you go into a lot of these faiths and denominations, they're sitting there lighting candles, they're praying,
yeah,
making the space, right? I'm telling you guys, those of you that are watching this right now, it's not so far removed from that, where you provide that energy when you're talking to an unseen energy, praying to a God, praying to spirit. Is there really any difference?
Yeah, it's like creating that environment in your head, which is projected, you know, and I think everybody most 99% always come in that mode anyway. I think people they've always been very respectful, and of course I had a load of really staunch Jesus people, you know, because Atlanta's what they call the buckle of the Bible Belt, so every other thing is a fantastical church, you know, and they're very, you know, very strict about it, and but they'd sneak in, you know, see the medium, you know, and because it's a natural regression. I think religion is like, especially in some religions, they try and talk about, because I went to a few Baptist churches, a few of my friends, you know, and have you got Jesus in your heart? You know, so you'd sort of like, and out of respect for them, I'd go and you know, meet the preachers, especially the black preachers there. They're like some stereotype you'd see on TV, you know, like incredible.
I know, they're fantastic to watch. But Andrew, you would have been up. See, this is the difference being spiritual and shit, right? You know, you would be happy to go into, and I bet you were, to go into their faith, their denominations, but how many came and sat with you in yours?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of the time. I mean, I did an event in somewhere in Cornwall once. I've forgotten where it was. Big old church thing, you know, like a spiritualist church. And there was all these demonstrators outside with placards. I'd never seen anything like it. And they were handing out letters to people saying, "Oh, we're talking to the devil." And it's like, and a lot of these people, I used to say to them, God, you know, like even in the States, sometimes it'd be like everybody's got a demon with them. And I just used to say to them, like, your God is shit, innit? If everyone's got a demon and your God ain't powerful enough to sort that out, I don't want to know about your God. You know, I'll go and get my own one that is powerful. Well, you know what I'm saying? They're always to the negative. It's always a bad spirit. The first go-to is, oh, it's a bit negative. No, it might be that it's really strong and your conscious mind is feeling that strength of spirit, and you're turning that fight or flight thing in your head into that's a negative spirit. I've seen it so many times. It's just like, oh, that's not a negative spirit. That's your grandmother. It's just that your conscious mind wants to be in control and demands attention and demands the to be on top of the hierarchy of it all. So
exactly. And then you go to a lot of these places and they're feeding that fear as opposed to feeding what your mind's actually, your energy is trying to do. It's trying to go into a place where it actually can connect with your great grandmother, with, you know,
your spirit guides, or your dimension. A lot of people come up. Yeah, a lot of people have already had their dimensional ascended master experience, and a lot of people have had a Jesus experience, you know. So it's not just, and that's what I'm saying a lot. It's not, mediumship is just not about your ancestry, you know, your grandmother, your great grandmother, fathers, your brothers. That's a beautiful part of it. It gives you a continuity of self and a continuity of life, you know. Life is worth living, love is worth loving, you know. Gives you that continuity beyond death, and that's the whole point of it, because it's like you can't eat steak every day. You can't have an ascended master turn up every night, you know. You got to have a sandwich sometimes. From sort of analogies that.
They can't even. People are locked up for less, right? People are afraid even when they do experience that if they say to their doctor, they're looking for somebody to be able to explain it, to be able to give them that rationality, that vocal clarification, and not make them feel like they're off their head.
Yeah.
So a lot of people keep this stuff to themselves. I wonder how many people are watching out there just now right, that actually have experienced stuff and have kept it to themselves, right?
Oh, totally,
Not shared. Listen, if you're there right now, please put a message in the column, right? You're in a safe space. So if there's something that you want to ask Andrew, please do post it in the column.
Well, we have got some questions, actually, and I do like something slightly controversial, and Ian has got something potentially...
I can't get my comments up and the thing. Yeah.
So Ian Greenwood has asked, it's the first time viewing, he takes umbrage with trance and transfiguration. It's not necessary and potentially strips away any protection you have in place. Andrew,
well, that's a point of view, yeah. But my experience of 35 years hasn't led me to that belief at all. I think the idea of trance is a lot more... Spirit's always said it's a best way of getting closer to us. It's a direct relationship with the spirit as best it can. That's why these guides come through, you know. It's that's a good enough answer for me. I've seen so much that's been absolutely wonderful. I mean, my own grandmother coming through, someone that's never didn't know me, and the information that has come through. Yeah, it's I do understand that, but you know, we're not all in the same place, you see. There's not one right or wrong. You know, it's almost like judging somebody else for, oh, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this. And it's just like, well, there's no book here. This is all about self-expression and expressing what you've got. And yeah, but I understand people can be open. You hear these stories, but that's really not my experience. Perhaps I've been lucky. I was brought and shown in a really strong, controlled environment, and have the actual 100% faith and belief in it, you know, with what you're doing, that you are okay. And yeah, but I do understand the question, and it's fair enough. But we're not all the same. I was working in Puerto Rico, where they do that a lot, and was dealing with sort of Santorini spells, you know. I went down there, I was doing events and personal readings, and so many people were coming basically to... There's one guy in particular, an estate agent, a realtor, and he came in the room, and there was all these spirit beings with him, like, I won't get into it, it's too much, but basically I've just looked at it. He was the first one, I think. I was like, I'm just an English bloke, you know, we don't do Santorini and voodoo around here. And I said, and these girls who were with him said, you know, I said, I didn't know I was saying it. I was like, you know, your business partner's put a spell on you. He's been to a Santorini priestess and to put a spell on you to get you out of the business. And it was all so real to them. And I think a lot of it was cultural fear, the placebo effect of, like, if someone tells you there's a spell on you, then you damn well believe it in your cultural id, you know. And it's I don't know if anybody's been to Puerto Rico, but it's a very different place, and they're very earthy beliefs, a mixture of Catholicism and African spirit-based faiths, you know. It's fascinating. But
yeah.
So Ian's just said, I only have this opinion due to having to carry out several retrievals where it's gone terribly wrong. So yeah, certainly we wouldn't be recommending it as like a party trick. But
absolutely, he's right.
Having witnessed trance and also seeing that the wreck, Andrew, is the next day, it certainly was, instead of having to talk to like an interpreter all the time, it was actually suddenly having that ability to talk directly to the spirit, who could basically I could then have a two-way conversation with the spirit as to constantly say, Andrew, can you now ask? Which was a very long-winded process.
It was always Sorry, John, go on.
I was going to say, because we had quite a few questions. The lovely Pat Taylor has asked, and I'll be meaning to dig this one in. She's a great supporter of the show. She said, I would like to have better communication to my spirit guide. What is the best way to do this?
Ouch, gee, that's the age-old question there. And really, there's only the only real answer is like work, dedication to your meditation, dedication. It really is, you know. There's and ask, you know, when I first sat and my spirit guide came through, it took me 5 years to get the name. This is how, how I learned to be patient, really, was that you have to believe you have one or them for a start, and just talk out loud, look for clues, like I said earlier. And you know what? That we have no control of it. It's like this small piece of time we live is nothing to the infinite dimensions, as it were, but time's very important to us, But I don't think you should punish yourself or be depressed about really not having that direct guidance experience. It's different for everybody. It really is. And that's what I'm saying. The thing about this, Lana pointed out, it's not a profession. There's not a methodology. There's not a fixed way of doing it, And having traveled around a bit, worked in, I was in South Africa as well, in Lesotho, in a little tribal hut there. And, it's a proper little African village. And they were so different with it, but it was the same thing, but so different the way of expressing it. And I could have sat there as a European with my way of doing things and just poked a million holes in it. I was with the medicine woman, basically the medicine was a forest of marijuana out the back, the dukkha. And so the guide thing is a problem. It's always asked, how can I get closer? And a lot of people think they've done something wrong or they're not capable, and it's such a pity, because you put these expectations on yourself, and you will let yourself down with your own, I want to be a physical medium, I want to do this. Why not just sit back and just enjoy the ride and look out the window of self and look through your eyes and realize that you are having that experience, and everything builds up over the years. For me, I mean, I feel plateaued. I could argue equally that I'm fed up with seeing my guide. He disappeared some years ago. The vision that because things move on. It's transient, but not. I don't know what the other words. It's transient in a timeless sense. It's needs for when you need it or the stage of your life.
Well, that's right. And we were talking about the train, weren't we, earlier on? That you're on your train and you got off at a stop. Right, Christ knows which one it was that got off and didn't get back on again, and you carry
exactly.
On. Yeah.
And I tell you what, and it is the hard truth for me, from my own experience, and I'm only talking from experience and what I've seen, is that meditation is the answer, and from meditation you have you eventually develop the just the being moment. And it's not, you should never time yourself. Well, I sat for an hour and I was just being for 2 minutes. You can't, it's the doing that counts, and it always is. And I think once you realize that, and that's when your expectations, like I said, I spent years shifting away any ideas of grandeur. Oh, I'm a medium, I should do this. So I just let it flow. I just try not to force anything. And especially in America, you're so pushed to turn it into a business to monetize it. And I think I was telling John about it. I used to sit there, and my wife's American. She's sort of a very successful professional, and so in her head, it's although we met through spiritual work. But I just used to look at this pie and, I could do workshops. I could do, although I do, but, I was taking it to the nth degree, being pushed to monetize it. How can I make as much money as possible out of whatever thing I think I've got or whatever people react to? And I just remember sitting there and just having that moment of truth to myself and thinking, I do not ever want to get into counting seats. Oh, there's 40 seats at $10 each. That's this much. And so I really just gave myself years ago now a good slapping. And I thought, hey, see that little slice there, that little tiny piece of the pie? I'm really good at that. So I'm just going to really concentrate on that and realize that one can't be everything to everybody or everything to yourself. You have to make the choice about being happy in your own groove and accepting that groove. Because once you find, like, I'm really happy with my groove, I know I can do that. I'm really fine with that. I, in fact, love doing that. And maybe it's tiring sometimes, maybe it isn't, but my God, I feel bloody great. When we've had a great evening and it's just everybody's on fire, you know, like I with 6, 7, 8 hour evenings, you know, with breaks and cups of tea, and I would never allow alcohol or smoking weed. But yeah, once you can realize you've got your slot, and these are just basic human things, you know, but it will lead you to having more of an experience because you're not wasting your time and energy. And on the other hand, it took me a long time to negotiate all the other things one could do to come back to that point of my core self is this. And then I see other people who are great healers and great this, that, and the other, and I think, oh, that's awesome. That's really great, but you can't be everything. And so don't expect anything, and then everything's a bonus. It really is. And you just got to try and dwell in that universal nothingness of through meditation. And like I said, I'm going up to Scotland. I hopefully want to live on the mountain for hopefully 3 months. I've given myself a target of lots of hiking. I'm going to walk across Hadrian's Wall. I'm going to go up to Cairngorms and where my dad's family's from, and I'm going to go and sit on a mountain for as long as I can and just meditate. It's my vision quest. It really is. I'm looking for a guide, man. Huh?
November, 10 minutes.
Say again?
If it was good enough for Merlin.
Merlin? Oh, right.
Yeah, well, Merlin had a cave in Moffat, so he did, and he did that and came up and he settled up here, but, you know, for his retirement. So it's good enough for Merlin, it's good for you.
See, the interesting thing about that, the guy was talking about trance and that. I came back 3 years ago and I had my own personal visitation about, you know, you need to go to Scotland. We're waiting for you there, basically. And I was like, oh, all right. And then I went back to America. But I recently had a trance reading from an English medium online. And the first thing, it was the most amazing experience of, like, this woman was, she couldn't have possibly put on an act or a show. This beautiful man came through and said to me, "Oh, Andrew, you know, I see you're going back to England soon, and we're waiting for you in Scotland." That was a good enough. That was reading over for me, you know. That was like, and he said, you know, basically, I'm going there to have my vision quest, to open myself up, to better myself, to open my mediumship, to be more forgiving of things and forgiving of myself. And that's what Vision Quest's all about. I want to see a guide, you know, as that lady asked, you know, it's, you're always wanting, for me personally, I always want to keep moving. I mean, look at me now. I've come back from the States. I'm basically homeless and, you know, sold the house over there. And this is just another new phase adventure. I've got my mum's car. I'm going to stay with my mate tonight, and then I'm going to see what's next. And I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. But it's a long journey. It's a continuous. There's no end. There's no goal. And I've no expectations, although a little bit quietly I'm thinking, oh, perhaps something will happen up in Scotland. But I've got to go to find that out. But I'm all right by just saying it would be a great holiday if nothing spiritual happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know.
Andrew, we've loved listening to you today. Honestly, I've learned massively. Have you, Jonathan?
Yeah, can I just ask you both a very quick question? Because we've had 2 questions about smells. So Margaret's asked, I keep smelling tea and cornflakes all the time, just what my mam Wilhelmina would give me each day in winter time. And then Shona's asked, my mum passed away 8 years ago and my dad 2 years ago. And sadly, my partner of 24 years, Ian, passed away in May. I'm sure I can still smell his cigarette smoke. And I think my dog Willow can sense them until I talk to them all. What would you say about when you, because we spoke earlier about how could you, you know, if spiritual contact with you, would you say that smells is one of them?
Yeah, asking me a lot, Lara.
Both.
Oh, well, I'm a big fan of, you see, you could be pottering around doing stuff, not thinking about it, and then you get the smell, right? So that's that's them telling you that they're there. From that way round, right? But if you're there and you're thinking about them constantly and then you're manufacturing that, that's completely different. But generally, when you do a little bit of due diligence and stuff, you realize that they've maybe been gardening or they've just come back, and for no apparent reason, it's just like the smell's there, right? And then it disappears as quickly as it's there, and then that's them telling you they're there, right? And see, when you smell that, talk to them, communicate with them, looking for that communication. They feel it when they are separate to us just as much as the other way around, by the way.
That's right, you're so right. And I just want to say, I hope I'm not sounding like I'm putting everything down. I'm just taking this opportunity to be really practical. As was told to me, you know, is that you can't just have people tell them, just ask your guide and they tell you. It's just really, if it was like that, it's a non-reality for most people, as it is probably for me. I don't really have that relationship like that. It's not just ask and it will be revealed. There's a practical human side to this, of actually getting through our lives, having to earn money, having to live in this environment and negotiate society, people, politics, etc. That's there to smother us, you know, that's there to sort of take the magic away. And I've always really tried to live a magical life as best I can within my own self, but based on a practical understanding that, like you said, you got to eat, you got to, you know, do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do, exactly.
That was the best help I had from those amazing mediums I was with for a while. Out of particular, you know, where'd you get your information from? You know, who's talking to you know, and be like this, and it's a practical basis, so you don't fly off and, you know, sort of ruin yourself, you know. So it's like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they say in the States.
I like that.
And it's all part of it. It's because you're growing. You're not just growing as a medium, you're growing as a human being, first and foremost, you know. And everybody says that first and foremost we're spirit. Well, I think first and foremost we're pretty much physical, the human beings, you know. That's the thing that carries us, this meat body's carrying this sort of ideology around our beliefs and our mysteries that we want. Do you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of both. It's not, one doesn't, I don't know, it's a complicated subject. I'm just trying to be really down to earth, and I think it's an important message to people to understand, you know. Do your meditation, put your work in, have no expectations, don't give yourself timescales, don't judge your own experience by others. I work with Rosemary. I don't know, John, did you ever meet Rosemary?
No.
Psychic artist?
No.
John?
No, I didn't, no.
No, she was posh as you like. Her husband was one of the directors of IBM in England, huge house in Surrey, and she was a fantastic psychic artist. So we used to go travel together. We went to Paris to work, and we did some amazing things with an ex-engineer from Texas Electronics. With he could get people's faces on the TV and the white noise, but that's a different story. So Rosemary I put a video camera and, you know, project up what she drew while I was sort of out there giving it all that. And she would draw these faces of the people I was talking to, people's mothers, their guides. One time she drew this woman when she was old, when she was middle-aged, when she was young. These three beautiful fine line portraits. If you talk to her, she said, I never feel anything, I get nothing, I don't know anything, I don't know who my guide is. She meditated every day, 40 minutes. She used to call it her dedications, and it was her duty to do that to her pen. And so she had this absolutely unadulterated, what's the word? Some word. I don't know, no, something else, it don't matter. But she had this absolute belief in what she did because she had results. Which was really important. So that's what I say, when people can share their little messages and little things we all get for each other, that's the beauty of it. It really does fire you up. That's why it's experience.
Without passing it off as somebody else giving it to you, right? Taking ownership of that and actually really knuckling down in your own self-belief and harnessing the skill set with that. Be amazed at what comes out.
And revel in others, you know. Revel in others, that you're not alone in this, and that you're not crazy, and and be around like-minded people, community. But that's what the spiritualist churches gave me for many years. You know, we had that history of spiritualism in our, you know, but that's not the be all and end all. It's just it was a really good safe space where as a medium you could express yourself, where mediums were attracted there, and there was a long history of how to sit in group together. And like I think Ian talked about, you know, people not getting in trance when they shouldn't be, or having a problem with because they hadn't had enough discipline or learnt enough or been lucky enough like I was, because there's mediums and there's mediums, there's trance mediums and there's trance mediums, you know, there's a whole different gamut of I'd say abilities or sensibilities moreover.
Brilliant. We've run way over time. We could probably talk all night and all day about this, but thank you, Andrew, for just chatting and telling us about your journey.
Yeah, it's just a chat. That's all we do, share with each other. It's nothing amazing.
That's great. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to everybody watching. Thank you for Nori Miles for putting all the content together again. I keep forgetting to mention Nori every week. She was
should give her a ring. Yeah, I should text her. I've just finding my feet here. Yeah, I've just been finding my feet, you know, what with being in quarantine and that.
Oh, God. I'm surprised they didn't keep you there for 21 days somewhere in a car.
Yeah, there's plenty of roomish.
Oh, it's fabulous to see you. Hopefully I'll see you when you pop up to Scotland.
Yeah. Is that where you are?
Yeah, I'm up in Scotland.
Oh, right. Yeah. Technology.
There you go. See, all the best people are up here. I was down in Cardiff for a while, and now I'm up in Scotland.
Oh, Cardiff.
I was instructed to come up here as well, right? And it looks like you have as well. So I'm
totally, yeah. It's been going on for 3 years. It's like
exactly
a big pull, yeah. Don't know why.
And I'm thinking, oh well, okay, so I'll come back up here, right? I didn't think I'd ever come back up, but listen, they've obviously got other ideas, so up I came.
Yeah, absolutely. So I lost you a bit then on the.
That's all right, not to worry about it. Most people say that. I know.
Well, I've had no video through all of this, so my video's not working.
Oh,
not at all.
Okay.
No. I mean, I got good bandwidth by looks, but it's just one of those. Who cares? I'm just staring out the window, really.
Well, we can see you, and that's what counts.
Oh, really? Oh, right. Okay.
Don't you worry about that. Well, thank you so much, Andrew.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. We've had a fabulous time this week. Who have we got next week?
I think we have Richard Spazov, who is a medium from America, but I think we just need to sort out how we're going to get him on. We might need to pre-record him.
I think pre-record probably. Was muttering about that the other day when I said about having him on with his meditation music and stuff on my channel. So I think that the time frame was proving a bit difficult for him. So
yeah. Okay.
All right, guys. Listen.
Thank you for all the comments, guys.
Yeah, we've had.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all.
Coming on. Yeah, hopefully we'll catch up with you soon. Take care.
Yeah.
Safe journey, everyone, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.